The Federal Reserve under a microscope. Inflation is not cooling enough. And the central bank divided over what to do about it. Fox Business's Edward Lawrence spoke exclusively with New York Fed President John Williams, and he joins us now. Hey, Ed.
Hey,
said hot, inflation hot.
A little bit too high for his liking is what you could say for him. Yeah, and arguably the New York Federal Reserve President is the second most important voice in the Federal Reserve. His Fed keeps the interest rates where the federal fund rate should be in that range. Now, he says that inflation is too high for his liking, and he would like to see it come down a bit, but again, was a little coy when he talked about our rate hikes off the table. Listen to this. We have a new Federal Reserve Chairman, Kevin Warsh. He's not putting out forward guidance in the Fed statement. Are you going to still put out forward guidance related to where you think the federal funds rate should be?
Well, in terms of my own, speaking, I, regularly give my views on the economic data, the outlook, and how I see monetary policy. Not so much forward guidance, but how, like we just discussed, how I see monetary policy positioned in terms of achieving our goals, and I plan to continue to do that.
Well, what do you think about removing forward guidance? Doesn't it leave a void for the markets?
Well, I think if you think about the FOMC statement in terms of that forward guidance, I think it, given the uncertainties that we face in terms of inflation and the economic outlook, trying to give explicit forward guidance about where interest rates are going to be was no longer appropriate. The uncertainties are too great.
Gas prices are now down about 11% in the last month or so. How fast do you see inflation then falling this year, and is it faster than you thought?
Well, I think that's part of the good news. We definitely have seen a big decline in oil prices. I expect to see in the next few months energy prices to come down quite a bit, and that will bring headline inflation down.
The pause could be possibly hinting towards for the rest of this year. Again, he sees that the inflation issue for him is rising a little bit, and the labor market is really not an issue for him going forward. So again, he does hint that there could be a pause with this. The markets think a little bit there's going to be a hike in September. We'll have to see what happens.
Ed, and the New York Federal Reserve especially is important among all the other regional banks because it is responsible for running the open market operations and executing on, essentially the rate and the policy that the FOMC sets. And that president has a permanent position on the FOMC.
And he votes every meeting. So his voice is extremely important related to this.
Anything about the task forces?
Yeah, on the task forces, he says he wants to let the process play out.
Okay.
It seems like he's playing along at the moment. However, he said that he's not going to change anything he does going forward with forward guidance we've been talking about. He's going to continue to give his forward guidance and what he believes the forecast should be towards the end of the year. So he acknowledges there's going to be a change. Seems like he's kind of rolling with the new Fed president, but he's not going to change anything that he's doing.
Those updates that he's talking about without specifically giving forward guidance, and now we're being picky about the kinds of terms we're using. Those are real updates about what he thinks is happening in the marketplace in real time. And so I'm wondering if that sort of is going to be difficult with how Kevin Warsh wants to do things. If you've got rogue members, giving their opinion on where we stand or how it should be.
And this is what I was trying to get at. There's going to be a void if the Federal Reserve doesn't give, or the Fed chairman doesn't give forward guidance on where he thinks things should be. The markets are going to look for direction from somewhere. Now, some of the Fed presidents, they're going to, so I have noticed speeches from at least board governors have sort of cut back a little bit since Warsh has come in, but I'm not seeing that with the district presidents as of yet.
I remember the days of Jerry Corrigan running the New York Fed, where the New York Fed really was a big thing. The New York Fed has receded somewhat in stature over the years. Maybe not in sort of its policy functions, but in stature, replaced by the Atlanta Fed, the guy out in San Francisco sometimes. I just wanted to feel reassert. Did he give you any...
I mean, reassert, I don't know that his voice carries a lot of weight within the Federal Reserve. Now, the profile might not be as high, but within the Federal Reserve, his voice carries a lot of weight. It's going to be interesting to see how this clash is going to happen, where you have Kevin Warsh not wanting to put out the forward guidance, and you have some members of the Federal Reserve wanting to keep doing what they're doing. There's eventually going to be a clash, and it should be interesting to see. Maybe Jackson Hole, maybe that speech is how he sets things.
That'll be a biggie.
Sets the tone,
Love it. He was there during the 9% plus inflation under Biden, wasn't
Yes.
he? Yeah. So maybe don't keep doing
He's
what
the
you
guy
were
that printed
doing
the
back
money.
then, because isn't there an Einstein quote about that? Thank you so much, Edward and Charlie.